Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show, Awesemo.com, presented by Yahoo Sports. We are here on a lovely Wednesday 7-gamer. Nice balanced week across the board for DFS. Hope no one got bit by the Corey Joseph chalk. Just kidding. 65% of you probably got bit by the Corey Joseph chalk. Sal, what's going on, man? How you excited for this Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm excited for the Wednesday 7-game slate. I mean, it's perfect. The last couple of days of slates. Yeah, I got bit by Corey Joseph. I got bit by 5,009.5 minutes Andre Drummond yesterday. Enough Bogdan and over the field by a decent amount on RJ Barrett, but still a down day when the two chalkiest pieces just collapse.
Yeah, it's never great when the 60% owned guy hangs an 18 burger. I mean, chalk in general, Sabonis rough, Drummond rough, Jimmy Butler fine. Yeah. And then you start to get into like the actual value, but those days are going to happen. That's NBA DFS for you.
Yeah, you had. I was shocked to see that Drummond. I know that he was just terrible in the first half, but then I saw he fouled out just at the end of the night because I knew it was a wash night. Yeah, I saw 5,000 about 9 minutes and 15 seconds in the second half. It just absolutely falls apart. Brogdon was going off. First half, he had like 30 points, and then he finishes with 34. I don't know what happened with him, but I didn't look if there was foul trouble or anything, but he just shut down as well.
I've got a lineup study pulled up for right now. Taking a look at some of the exposures. Corey Joseph, 60% owned in the $10 big jam on DraftKings last night. Move this screen a little bit so people see it better. Perfect. Stretch that back out. Now we're talking. Now everybody sees what I'm working with here. So yeah, Corey Joseph, the chalk. Domantas Sabonis, number 2. Both Alex and Adam were at 96 and 98% Corey Joseph. So for anybody that's trying to take that lap on old Kojo, the number 1 player in the world had him in all but 2 of his lineups. So
yeah.
You can only get so mad. They were both under the field on Sabonis. They were both quite heavy on Drummond, Butler, and Nunn. Highest scoring player on the slate last night. Trae Young going crazy once again. Him and Embiid, the only 2 guys over 60 fantasy points. No one hit 10x value. Bogdan came close at 9.9. He was in 76% of Adam's lineups last night.
Wow. Yeah, I saw. What he come in overall, like 29 or 30%, somewhere in that range, was in the $55.
Yeah, 26.9 in the big jam. And then you get into a bunch of guys that were essentially unowned but good value. Bielitsa, DeAndre Jordan, Frank Kaminsky, Kobe White got some love. Christian Wood, Alex Len. Christian Wood, obviously, a bit of a benefactor to Andre Drummond. So no surprises there. Was one thing.
Yeah, Kobe White hit like 7 threes in a quarter, I think.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he was the first rookie, I think, ever to hit 7 threes in a quarter, I think it was. I mean, I don't know how many people have actually done that ever, but yeah, he hit 7 threes in a quarter.
Something I wanted to point out today that I pulled up, and I think that it's at least a little interesting. So we talk a lot about exposure. So like Corey Joseph in particular, Jimmy Butler at 31%, Kendrick Nunn at 27.5. The big sample of 52,941 entries. But if you really want to see how this shakes out, I have all the lineups pulled up here for this contest, and I have it filtered so that it's only the people that entered 150, which I think is sort of a more representative sample of sort of where the pros were in lieu of the actual ownership. So Corey Joseph came in then at 68%. So relative to the rest of the field, the 150 maxers were much higher on Corey Joseph. Andre Drummond was second at 46%. He was at 33% in the big jam. So that feels more like a pro play. Sabonis was at 41 for everybody. He was at 34 for the pros. But the most interesting one here, the 6th most owned player for everyone that played 150 last night, Kelly Olynyk at 33%. He came in at just 16% to the rest of the field. So,
wow, what did Olynyk finish with? I know it doesn't matter, but
that
curious.
Is a good question. Kelly.
Yeah, because I was looking at that situation last night. I mean, the bodies, but they had 9 if you count like a G leaguer who wasn't even playing. So
27.75, 7.1x.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they had late scratch. What? Johnson was late scratch. They didn't have any Jones going into it. No Winslow. They just didn't have bodies. They had like 7 reliable bodies. So rotation wise, I'm assuming he played a ton of minutes. So to get there, that was a definitely pro play.
Yeah. So if you ever want to try to get a closer look, you can filter down lineup study by the guys that are entering 150 in a bigger contest. I think you'll get a better representative sample of what the pros are doing in comparison to just the full ownership. Might help you guys to look at those, look for the big deltas, try to figure out why they would be, like Sabonis. Why would they be less on Sabonis, more on Kelly Olynyk?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pay attention and just really take away with it going forward and like try and add context as much as you can to what else was on the slate. If it's cheaper guys they're going for, is it because of a Corey Joseph being over-owned in a similar price range or something like that? What is the reason that somebody else is popping like an Olynyk?
Yeah, another one that was massive. The 150 max guys entered 46% of Kendrick Nunn in the entire contest. He was at 27%. So you saw that change very dramatically.
Yeah, that one made a ton of sense once Hero went out. I wonder how much of that. I wish there was a way to see how much of that changes. I mean, a ton of it changes once Hero goes out, sure. I imagine, but just how much of it changes, I'd say double it probably.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You would expect the people that are 150 maxing the $10 to be guys that are going to immediately late swap into something more beneficial, whereas the people that didn't have 150 max in are less likely to be making a switch to Kendrick Nunn, even if they didn't have Tyler Hero.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a ton of sense.
So one of those things that I think an extra little feature of lineup study that goes sort of unnoticed, but a good way to see where the true money in the industry is going. You can go to the all lineup section on the page. You can filter here to just say equals 150. You could do 140 or something too if you really wanted to, but you're going to get the same sort of sample. Then you could just take the player usage, pops open on the right-hand side. You get everybody's total exposure. You could look at it by position if you want and really see how the position broke down. I think that's the best way to look at ownership and see where you went right or wrong.
Yeah, that's if you're looking at that contest for sure. And then also, like, I wonder how it mirrors just like the $55 and like higher up stakes in what the ownership looks like. It's probably another way to just look at it outside of filtering, but I think that's a good way to look at it, filtering with also like the casuals direct ownership right there.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say filtering down this $10 contest to the 150 max guys, the exposure that you see there would probably mirror more the higher entry, which is going to end up being more concentrated, and you would kind of just keep packing that in together over and over.
Yeah, the same exact guys at that point. Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, that's a little quick peek at Tuesday's information. Now, to talk about our presenting sponsor, Yahoo Sports. I am dropping the link to Emacs Cash Building Blocks article into chat right now. Yahoo is the presenting sponsor of this show, of the Deeper Dive, and of the Early Bird podcast. Tonight, they are running the 30K baller, 5K to first. They've got I'm going to get it wrong, 250? Is it 50? Am I right? 200K baller for the NFL this Sunday. That's close. 20K to first there. You're getting lower management fees than you'll see across most of the industry. You're getting better payout structures for tournaments. You're getting softer competition. So if you've been on the fence about playing at Yahoo, highly recommend you check out the Cash Building Blocks article. There's a link at the top of the article to sign up. Click that link, use the promo code AWESEMO, and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. It's as good as cash. Gets you into any contest you're trying to get into. Can't really beat that. Okay, that'll work. I think we're good to get started. 7 games. It's, I don't know, an okay slate. I think that we're going to get set up for some real big weirdness as we get closer to lock. So that's mildly exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's multiple players. I mean, probably already no AD, and then just multiple players that are on back-to-backs that kind of shaky coming off of injuries. We don't know what they've been doing so far this year. Not seeing any back-to-backs for teams like the Lakers. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I actually like this slate so far. It's definitely – I want to see what the ownership comes in after another run. Right now, AD's still in there, so it's going to skew some of the things. But I like where the slate sets up right now with some of these teams on it.
Did I miss something on AD?
I saw last night, unless it was – okay, I might have missed – I saw last night unlikely – it might have been unlikely to return just to that game. But he got injured, and he left the game with a rib injury, same shoulder, starts up again. And then I saw the latest update. I read it this morning early that it was unlikely. It was unlikely to play Wednesday, yeah. Ribs and shoulder.
Where are you seeing that?
So I saw that on RotoWorld, and then it transpired through the first time I saw it was on Labs.
Oh, okay. According to Brad Turner, LA Times beat writer.
Yeah, he was originally ruled questionable because of his ribs, and then it immediately went to doubtful because of ribs and shoulder, or unlikely to play from questionable.
Yeah, so this one's tricky. All signs point to the Lakers holding him out on Wednesday, but on the official injury report, he is available.
Yeah. Was that last night or this morning?
It's the 8:30 version from last night.
Okay.
So not super relevant for today. We won't know until 1:30, but
yeah, I think the main issue there is they released that like before he got injured last night,
right?
Because he got injured in the game.
Oh yeah. I mean, this tweet is from 2:50 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be something to monitor, that's for sure.
Definitely.
But you guys can keep saying AD is doubtful. That is not a real injury designation for right now. Whether or not that's true, and like I based on that tweet, I'm also not expecting him to play, but he's not doubtful. That's not a thing yet.
Yeah, officially just unlikely to play, whatever that means.
Right. AD is available and in per the NBA as of right now. So it's complicated a little bit.
I like that. It's complicated.
It is. Like we can say that he's doubtful forever, but we're just making that up.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all. Let's dive in. Charlotte Hornets, Memphis Grizzlies, 110.75 for the Hornets. Hold on. Unlikely to play doesn't equal doubtful. All right, Josh. He's just a beat writer for the LA Times. It's not an NBA injury designation. He's just a guy. He writes for a newspaper unaffiliated with the team.
Yeah, I think AD being the person of interest in this case too, just in terms of already a couple of times this year being ruled questionable to probable in a matter of like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's tough to judge AD's injuries. I definitely don't feel comfortable about it.
Yeah. Do I believe the tweet? Yes. Is he doubtful? No. Those are two true statements. Hornets and Grizzlies, 1.5 point favorites for the Hornets in Charlotte. Great matchup in terms of two teams that aren't particularly good defensively. Pace up spot for the Hornets. We've got Terry Rozier and Miles Bridges both in the high double digits in ownership. In particular, Terry Rozier at 5,600 on DraftKings, projected for 30% ownership. It's really difficult to not want to get to Terry Rozier and Miles Bridges in this spot. How do you feel about those guys, and is there anything else for the Hornets that you're interested in?
Yeah, there's a couple of spots in the slate that are just really mispriced, and Rozier's one of them. Like, he only played 22 minutes in the last game, but it's clearly due to foul trouble. He had his third personal foul in the second, and then he only ended up playing 40 total seconds in the second quarter. Picks up his fourth personal foul 4 minutes into the third quarter, and then sits out the next 11 minutes. So you're going to get back up to that 34-minute range where he's been prior to that, and it's hard to ignore. Like a 26.5% usage rate. His assist percentage is 26.3. That's that's fine. It's getting hit down by Devontae Graham, who's just massive assist right now. But at 5,600, it's really hard for Rozier as a point guard, if he just plays 34 minutes, 32 minutes even on a low end, to really mess up your lineups. Like, the ownership will finally dictate it later today, but all looks well at 9:45 a.m. for interest. Rozier would be the guy I have the most interest in on the team. And Graham is definitely at least worth mentioning. He's shooting 43.7% from three, though. Like, that's going to come down. Yeah. So the price point is going up at an unsustainable 3-point percentage right now. He shot 31% last season. So he's going to regress downwards, and then you're going to be paying for $6,900 for like a 6K player at best. So it's tough to continue to go out there and get it, but he's hot right now. His assist percentage is up, so it should keep it a little bit higher. but it's really just Rozier the most part for me. I'm not too much on Bridges right now, but
Okay.
I think it's definitely an okay price point.
Yeah, for given the $5,600 tag on Rozier and the $4,900 on Bridges, right now they rank. I want to make sure I get this right. 3rd and 5th respectively on DraftKings for me.
Yeah. I mean, Rozier is 3rd, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
that's
makes
just a super silly price tag for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think right now the only thing that is interest wise probably like weighs him down for me is I currently have AD out, so then it makes Kuzma a little bit better at 4,100, similar positionality and price.
Yeah, when I yank AD out of there, that'll probably change things up a bit. Although, it's not as if he's grading out as a super great value for me anyway. So
Yeah,
we shall see. I'm okay with some shares of Graham. I'm okay with some shares of PJ Washington. That's probably it. Dwayne Bacon is at 10% ownership on FanDuel and 12 on DraftKings. He has been putrid so far this season. Although I guess he's only 2/100ths of a FanDuel point per minute behind Miles Bridges. So one of those guys is going to play 34 minutes though.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really know what to do with PJ Washington. I've yet to play him this season, and the price point is finally down to where it's manageable. So I'm gonna have to look more into PJ Washington's rates and stuff because I mean he's been consistent at this price point. It's just hard to really see a spike game out of him unless they go back to him playing more center, which it seems like Zeller is getting his role back.
So I have him in for 32 minutes right now. He's been at 0.9 FanDuel points per minute for the season.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic for a guy that I did not expect to even be anything resembling decent for Charlotte. And he's been good in like box score metrics too, not necessarily just from a fantasy perspective. He's been one of the more valuable Hornets, as valuable as someone from the Hornets could be. So
yeah, he's like a much better. I mean, he's producing so many steals on this team. I'm going to be shocked if he's up there as like a lead leader or team leader in steals. It seems like every night he's getting at least 2 steals.
Yeah, I would imagine his like base rates for steals have jumped dramatically in my model. I'll have to check that out. Let's go to the Memphis side where not much coming in on FanDuel. 11% Dillon Brooks is the highest owned anyone is, but we've got 21% ownership going to Jonas at 6K, 24% going to Jaren Jackson at 4,800. He's $7,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that is a mistake.
You have to smash Jaren Jackson, right?
I mean, yeah, as long as you continue to see him not draw 5,000 9 minutes like Drummond last night. But yeah, he's way too cheap for a guy who's going to play 30 minutes when he stays out of that foul trouble. And even if he does get into trouble and he plays, like 24 minutes, it's still an okay price point for what he can do. So yeah, Jaren Jackson stands out the most. I actually want to look more into like John Morant. The last 2 games, he shot 5 of 25 from the field. He has channeled his inner Russell Westbrook wholly on that. But he's also shooting well from 3-point range, which is surprising on the season. His minutes went down. It was a little bit due to foul trouble in the last game. He's going to play 28 minutes more times than not. That's an issue for like a ceiling, but the price points also come down. So I want to look into it a little bit more for him. I think his minutes are okay. He hasn't been getting those 28, but a couple of blowouts and foul trouble in the last one. And then Jonas Valanciunas, yeah, I like where the ownership is right now. It's okay. The rebounding rate, everything about it. He played almost 8 minutes in the fourth quarter in the last game, which I thought was definitely impactful. Like you might see a Joe Val 28 to 30-minute game sometime soon.
Yeah, I gave him 26. He looks good at 6K. There's just so much value on DraftKings since everybody is priced down that it makes the value in the mid-tier a bit more difficult to get to because there's just a sea of dudes priced at 6K and in and around 6K where it's just shrug your shoulders like, yeah, that guy should be more expensive. That guy should be more expensive. Well, eventually, if everybody's supposed to be more expensive, they're all the right price.
Yeah, at that point, I was going to say the 6K range for like power forward and center is just filled with probably all 5 of them on being underpriced on this slate, or all 4 of them. So, yeah, the only guy that like later on we're going to talk about it, but somehow like Montrezl Harrell went up like $1,400 on DraftKings. He's almost 8K. That was like the only weird one that went the other way.
I wonder what he did to someone that works at DraftKings to make that happen.
Yeah, well, I was like wondering what he did in his last game that I missed, and like, I mean, a good game, but like almost an 8K Montrezl Harrell, not. I don't know. Probably not worth it if Paul George even comes back too. So,
for me, get as much Jaren Jackson as you can at 4,800. Even if he gets in foul trouble, like there's not a lot of downside at that price.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's Jaren Jackson and then Joe Val, but I want to look more into Morant just because of the price point coming down.
Yeah, I feel like Morant has been way better than I actually think he has. I don't know.
He's shooting 44% from 3.
which was not expected.
No, not expected at all. I mean, and that's factoring in him shooting 5 of 25 from the field and like 0 of 3 from 3 in the last couple of games. He's also not shooting a ton of threes. Like at the end of the day, he shoots like 2 threes a game. So it's a small sample on that. But yeah, and the last game was interesting too because they had Tyus Jones was brought in for the final 5 minutes of the game. Morant's closed like every other game, but not that one. So that wasn't foul trouble related either. He just came in.
Do you have anything else from this game that you would like to hit on?
No, that's all. Cody Zeller's just a very mad play at a lot of cheap centers on the slate that I'd rather get to.
I like Jovel for 19 on Yahoo. I should throw that out there. And then Miles Bridges is 9,900 on Fantasy Draft. Probably my other favorite play for the non-major sites.
Yeah, makes sense.
Orlando Magic, Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers 3-point favorites in Orlando. Based on the lines that I grabbed before, and they've probably wiggled a little bit since I do this pretty early. The Magic have the lowest implied total on the day. The Sixers have the second lowest. Both of these teams are significantly better than average defensively. Kind of a gross pace down spot for Philly as well. We'll start on the Orlando side. Aaron Gordon, 11% expected ownership on FanDuel. Vooch is at 10% on DraftKings. No one else is in double digits anywhere. I would say that the Aaron Gordon price on FanDuel looks pretty reasonable to me for 5,700 given the positions. And I would say that Vooch's best price is actually Yahoo for $33, but this is just not a place where I'm looking to get anybody with any sort of volume in a DFS perspective.
Yeah, those are the only two guys I have written up for like notes here. It's just Philly's defense is 7th in points per possession. They're second best in limiting offensive rebounding chances. So right now, Vooch, I don't even really want any on this slate. It's Aaron Gordon, probably the most for me at DraftKings 5,700. He checks all the boxes for his position as a small forward, a 3, rebounding, assists. If he hits a couple threes or at least one, he'll get you there at that price point. But Vooch, he was shooting 55% effective field goal percentage last year, 46.5% this year, and he's surviving on mid-range shots, which I don't think are going to help him in this game. So, like, he's not finishing at the rim as much, and that's not going to just spike up against Joel Embiid. So it seems like a rough spot for. Although he's been performing well of late, not something I think continues today.
Yeah, I wish that I had something fun to say about Orlando, but
Markelle Fultz revenge game. There it is.
Oh man, it would be interesting to see him go bonkers on the Sixers.
Yeah, I'm not waiting that at all, but I am. I mean, there's like 3 guys on the slate that actually should be somewhat like pissed off about their situations in their former town. He's probably one of them.
Yeah. I don't know. Did the Sixers really do Fultz all that dirty?
Well, that's the thing. He just sucked. So, like, they got as good as they could for him in a deal, and they shipped him to a place that he could start. So, probably not.
They gave up an extra first-round pick to have him instead of just, like, waiting and having Jason Tatum.
And they were pretty patient with him, I would say. I mean, a lot of teams might dump him after, half of that year?
Yeah, it's just no one saw that coming. I mean, his shooting was a plus for him coming out, and it became a non-existent feature of Markelle Fultz's game.
Yeah, no, it was terrible.
On the Sixers side, Al Horford will be back in the lineup now, so we should have the full normal starting 5. Not much ownership going to Joel Embiid on FanDuel, but at 9,100 on DraftKings, he is very much in play. Ben Simmons, the chalk play here, 24% owned at 8,400 on FanDuel. 29% owned at 6,800.
Yeah.
Al Horford picking up a little bit of love in the low teens as well. What do you want to do with this Simmons chalk?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to ignore. He can just fit into so many spots in your lineup. If you're playing on DraftKings, at the small forward eligibility point guard, 30% assist percentage, like, he hasn't been fantastic, but he's not $6,800 bad. And that's the thing. Like, when I look at it, it's a guy that he's a point guard. He's going to see a good amount of usage on this team and be very much involved. And I could put him into a small forward spot where he'll be at 6,800, very more productive than like the 65, 6K type of small forward. So lineup construction wise, it makes a lot of sense. And I like it. Like, the ownership right now is, I think, fine for what his price point is. So yeah, I think I'm fine with it. He's finishing at the rim as he usually does and just not making shots anywhere else. 65% at the rim and sucking from shooting at anything outside of the rim. But that's what you're going to get in the assist percentages there. So I think he's fine for the price point. If he shoots half decent in a game, he's going to smash it.
Yeah. If I told you before the season started that Fred VanVleet and Devontae Graham would be on a slate with Ben Simmons and they would both be more expensive than him, what would you have thought happened?
Yeah, I would have thought that the Sixers acquired like Russell Westbrook and that you had like Terry Rozier out in the entire team for Charlotte. But yeah, no, it's weird. It's definitely a mispricing, I would say, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it has to be, right?
Yeah.
So many. Everybody's a misprice. It's so crazy. I would assume that there was like an NBA terrorist attack and half of the people aren't in the league anymore.
Yeah, it's been like this for like a week straight now. I don't remember this at the beginning of last year, but I don't know.
Draymond Green is 5,600 today.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's wild.
It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. Guy I like the most on Philly is pretty clearly Embiid, although the Simmons $6,800 price tag makes a lot of stuff work. I don't really have a ton of interest in Tobias Harris or Horford or Josh Richardson. If they're at full strength in a tough defensive matchup, in a pace down spot, there's not a lot to wring out of the Sixers today.
Yeah, like even if Horford hits the 5K range, people will freak out because it's the 5K range a little bit. He'll have some ownership spike, but he's not shooting anywhere near the rim and he's not getting any rebounds because of Embiid. He's very much relying on assists right now and like mid-range elbow shooting, which is sort of his shot, but nowhere near enough for me to want to get to it with any volume. Yeah, it's just Embiid right now. He's yet to play, or they've yet to play in a back-to-back this season, but I'm not sure it'll impact him all that much. It could bump him down about 2 minutes or so, but even then he's still a fine play at the price point. Like he's still too cheap.
Yeah, he really is. It's just a bad game for fantasy, really.
Yeah, I mean, the Orlando's like top 5 in shooting percentage against them and points per possession. So both of these teams are like top 5 in the league in defense. That's probably something people know coming in, but not great for fantasy.
Not at all. I don't have anything else here. Tough fantasy setup for the 7:00 games.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that Simmons ownership stabilizes out if we get any sort of like different value throughout the day.
People are calling Horford Hartford in chat. You gotta love it.
Connecticut shout out, I think.
Boston Celtics, Washington Wizards. 117.75 implied total for the Celtics, 108.75 for the Wiz. Now we're starting to get into a little bit more viable DFS plays. Washington, not all that great defensively. Boston, obviously still without Gordon Hayward now with the broken hand. We've got 4 guys on FanDuel in double-digit ownership. Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, who is 8,400. Jaylen Brown at 7,200. And Robert Williams, the most owned Celtic, at $3,900. On DraftKings, a little bit less so. These guys seem to be priced like they're supposed to be. So it's just Robert Williams and Jason Tatum in double digits. I would say Jaylen Brown's Yahoo price at $25 is probably the most appealing thing that I see. How do you want to manage the Celtics here against the Wiz? They should be able to do whatever they want. 9-point favorites tonight.
Yeah, I think what you said is right. They're all pretty appropriately priced on DraftKings. Tatum at 7,500 is probably the guy who stands out the most for me. He shot in his last game, I think 1 of 18 from the field. So like his price point doesn't move at all since Gordon Hayward leaves, but he's definitely going to have a little bit of a bump. Jaylen Brown's priced up at 7,300 on DraftKings to where he probably should be, but now I really don't want to get there all that much. It's Tatum, it's Kemba at a position where there's some other guys in the 8K range that I think stand out. So whatever his ownership comes in at, I imagine I'll be around it. It's really just Jason Tatum the most, and then figuring out what to do with the bigs. Enes Kanter only played 6 minutes off the bench last game. Yeah. They were running Daniel Tice. Robert Williams checked directly in for Tice when he got hurt and was just subbing out. So I guess that's where the ownership's coming from on Williams. I'm not really sure either of them intrigues me. I guess if you get Kanter starting, you can go there a little bit more, but I'm not sure I want to get to either. Robert Williams right now, like he's been playing very well, but for fantasy, he's just not having enough minutes, but playing really well off of pick and rolls.
I don't know what to do with him today. 27% on FanDuel is a really, really weird amount of Robert Williams for a slate like this, but there's so much less value on FanDuel than there is at DraftKings. I just don't know if 30% Robert Williams is the play, especially at center.
I mean, if he ends up starting, I think, what would you give him comfortably? 26 minutes?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Kanter's going to have to come up from 6 to 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I gave Robert Williams 20 right now, Kanter 18. Both of those numbers can get bumped. And let me be clear. I think Robert Williams is a fantastic value for $3,900 on FanDuel. I think he's very clearly the best value. But You've got Towns, you've got Embiid, Vooch, Capella, Whiteside, all at center. Anthony Davis, whether he's in or out, potentially at power forward. You've got LeBron, you've got Kawhi, you've got Harden. There's a ton out there. Paying down at center might get a little tricky. There's enough value at other positions. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, which we're going to get to. Some of the Warriors guys, Glenn Robinson. I don't know how much you're going to need Robert Williams unless we find out that he's going to be playing bigger minutes.
Yeah, if he's starting tonight on DraftKings where he's power forward eligible, he's just, I imagine the ownership comes through the roof on him.
Yeah.
If he's averaging, I think, close to, if not over a fantasy point per minute right now, and he'll probably play, 26 minutes, and that's really hard to pass up.
Yeah, 1.35 FanDuel points per minute this season.
Yeah, he's just been he's been great. I mean, he had a game where I think he only played like 18 minutes and he had 6 blocks or something crazy.
Yeah.
In like 3 rotations. So yeah, he looked very raw last year and definitely at the beginning of this year, but he looks a little bit like he's settling, definitely in the pick and roll from what I've seen.
Let's talk about Kemba. Actually, let's talk about Jason Tatum. 8,400 on FanDuel, 7,500 on DraftKings. Not super interested in anything here. He seems to be just priced where he should be.
Yeah, he's priced where he should be. Like, out of all those guys who are priced where they should be, Marcus Smart's probably a little overpriced. Tatum's one that stands out the most just because the price hasn't moved that much since Hayward's gone, and we haven't seen him really take on anything more because he shot 1 of 18 last game, and the game before that is just a spot where like the whole team kind of gets there. So he's the guy who stands out the most out of all those core pieces of Boston just because the price tag hasn't increased much. But yeah, it's a spot where I think they just all continue to cut into each other, and now they're all appropriately priced.
I like Jaylen Brown for 7,200 on FanDuel. I think that works out pretty well, particularly at a small forward position that's usually kind of hard to fill things out. Kawhi at 10-3 now. LeBron at 11-8. You get someone like Siakam still under 10K, and he might play all 48 minutes tonight.
Yeah. I mean, what did he play, 44 in the last, 44 and a half?
Yeah. On the Washington side, we've got Troy Brown at 20% ownership on FanDuel, 4K. Bradley Beal right around 20% ownership at 8,900. And then Thomas Bryant, 18% on DraftKings. He's 6,500, $26 on Yahoo, 12.5 on Fantasy Draft. Thomas Bryant, as of right now, is my 9th ranked guy overall on DK. That $6,500 price tag is not too shabby for him.
Yeah, he's my favorite guy from Washington. These guys haven't played, I don't think, since the 8th. So they were on like a really long island game, unless I'm mistaken. The last time I looked back on Popcorn Machine was the 8th. They might have not had a game in there, but that's a lot of time to have off, and peak minutes should be in there for Brian, who's been playing huge minutes already. Brian's the guy that stands out the most, especially if he's going to face potentially Cantor for 18 to 20 minutes of this game. Yeah. You have to love that. Even facing Robert Williams there's more length there, which is a problem, but nothing defensively that scares you. No. So yeah, it's an 18.4% usage rate for a big like him. It's okay. He picks up assists here and there. I like Thomas Bryant the most. Again, Isaiah Thomas played 29 minutes the last time out, and he should be at just peak minutes with a lot of rest here. His assist percentage is crazy. He hasn't been performing as well as of late. But 29 minutes coming off of that game, I think it's for the price tag. There's an upside there in GPPs if it goes unnoticed.
Revenge narrative?
That it has to be the epitome of one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to factor that in, but if anybody hates their former team more, it's pretty obviously Isaiah Thomas's father and then Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah. It plays no role in what I'm doing, but of all the guys that had to be trying to air a grievance, he's probably got a decent one against Boston.
Oh yeah, and I would not be shocked if he took that out tonight a little bit.
Yeah. The problem is he's still Isaiah Thomas, and he's a couple years older with hip problems, and I don't know how well that's going to go against a defense like Boston when they're throwing someone like Marcus Smart at him to slow him down.
Well, that's the thing is like it's as brutal of a matchup as it gets against him. The biggest pieces of it would probably be that his price tag goes down even though the minutes are coming up. He's back down to the 4K range, and I would imagine minutes stay somewhere around like 28 today if I was to project this.
I gave him 26. If I gave him 28, it's not going to make much of a difference. He's just on the margins for me. The guys that I'm keying on, at least on FanDuel today, Kemba, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, Thomas Bryant.
Yep. Yeah, it stands out. I really don't want much of Bradley Beal. There's just, like you said, Siakam, Kemba in that same range. We'll talk about D'Angelo Russell. There's other guys that I prioritize today.
Well, perfect time for everybody to hit the like button. I know how well that normally goes. You could use the promo code NBA Strategy today, one word, to get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus. Highly recommend you hit that like button and subscribe, though. You want to know when we're going live. We've got a ton of content coming up later today at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Dave Loughran, Chris Spags taking the first look at NFL ownership for Week 11. Jake will have his NHL strategy show at 4. We will also have Alex behind the paywall for his game plan stream at 4. Lofty and Adam, deeper dive, 5 p.m. And then 6 p.m. Eastern, NBA live before lock, myself and Fast Eddie Fear. But that's it. That's not it. We're not done there. 8 p.m. Eastern, PGA live before lock is back. Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin talking about the Mayakoba Golf Classic. So that's 6 more videos for you guys to check out some point in time today. Go ahead, do that. Let's add something to the comments section for the people that are listening. Since we don't have official word right now, in the comments section, not the YouTube chat, but if you want to drop it in YouTube chat right now, that's fine. I'll take a look at the answers. Will Anthony Davis play tonight for the Los Angeles Lakers? Give me a yes, give me a no. Is AD going to be on the floor for the Lakers tonight? I want to say yes just to be different, but I'm figuring it's going to end up being no. But I want to see how many people say no right now. So that if he's in, we can point fingers.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll say no. But if you had some sort of prize on the line, I'd definitely go yes. There'd be like 3 people saying yes.
Right. Exactly. And that's the epitome of DFS right there.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the real odds in comparison to how much the people are guessing?
We need to strip this and make it a training video. What a great analogy.
We've got like 3 or 4 people dropping yeses in here. I ride hard for you people. My guess is going to be no.
Yeah, I'm on the no train as of right now as well.
I mean, if I'm the Lakers, I'm probably sitting out anything that I could do against the Warriors at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked to see like back-to-back. We'll talk about it. Just Kuzma or other people take a seat.
I wonder how many minutes Cooter Brown. I would imagine the Lakers don't have a shoot around today since they played last night.
Yeah.
So we probably won't know any of that. We just have to pay attention to the 1:30 Eastern time injury report if we don't get any tweets out before that. But
I think it's in LA, right? I mean, it doesn't matter too much, Golden State, but yeah.
But they shouldn't be. I would imagine they're not having a shoot around on a back-to-back.
Yeah.
They don't normally, at least. Let's keep it moving. We're off to Houston. Rockets and Clippers, and boy, oh boy, Houston Rockets are the walking wounded. 115.75 implied total. Still slight favorites against the Clippers because all you need are James Harden and Russell Westbrook. 1-point favorites against the Clips. We may or may not see Paul George tonight. Welcome back. Honestly, we may or may not see Kawhi Leonard. They are on a back-to-back. This is the front end. So if we get him today, we're not getting him tomorrow. If we don't get him today, obviously we know we're getting him tomorrow, or at least probably getting him tomorrow. Let's start on the Houston side, though. We've got Harden. We've got Westbrook. Harden is priced up. Westbrook is the opposite of that. Harden at 19% expected ownership on FanDuel, 10% on DK. Westbrook 26 and 20 respectively. I think Westbrook's best price is probably 16.3 on Fantasy Draft, but because of the amount of value that's out there, there's no limit to the amount of Harden and Westbrook I want.
Yeah, exactly. There's no limit to it, but then there's also, I mean, like depending on what happens with AD, with LeBron $1,000 less than Harden, that also becomes a debate. But you probably don't need that savings. So yeah, I like Harden the most here. I mean, he's slowly starting to break away from Westbrook. Usage is up 10% higher than Westbrook right now. Assist percentage is almost 8% higher. So yeah, if you're getting to one of these guys and you have just so much money left over tonight, it's going to be Harden over prioritizing Westbrook on this slate. Especially so Westbrook, where his price is clearly fine. Like what this guy's ceiling is. I just think there's way more value in that 8K range at a similar upside and as like the dude on their team. As opposed to just Harden probably averages 60 points on this slate. And then if he shoots well, he's going to get you 75. So yeah, Harden's the guy that I prioritize here. And then, yeah, there's no Eric Gordon, probably no Daniel House. So Ben McLemore is supposed to start at 3,100. Yeah. He's pretty much Eric Gordon, like 0.56, the exact same amount of DraftKings points per minute as Gordon.
Yep.
But there should really be no cap to the minute. He's already been playing big minutes in some games. So 30-something minutes is what I would think he's going to play, 33, 34. He's probably not great, but he's $3,100, and that's really hard to ignore. I think he's shooting guard eligible too.
Yeah, you can't. For Macklemore and potentially Austin Rivers, both guys sub 4K price tags again on FanDuel and DK. At the very least, they need to be talked about for value. Yeah. The 3,100 for Macklemore is definitely interesting. I just wonder if it's even necessary. He's getting 15% ownership right now. Similarly, Capella at 14%. But if every single guy in like what should be the 9K range is priced at 7,500, maybe you don't need that extra $1,000 from Ben Macklemore.
Yeah, you might not need it in that case. I think that, lineups specifically that want to go with a Harden and then potentially a LeBron James with no AD is might become like a necessity for some 3K player. And if you're going to get one playing 35 minutes, well, he should score you 20 fantasy points most nights. If not, has a decent night more. So I do like Macklemore a lot. But yeah, you said there's a lot of value. I'll see where it comes in. I imagine he'll be in a lot of lineups where I go two top end guys, a Cat and a Harden or whatever it might be.
Okay. Who do you? I don't know if you mentioned it before, so if you did, I apologize. Who do you prefer more, Harden or Westbrook?
Yeah, it's Harden. Like I think in the range of Westbrook, obviously it's a fine price point. Get to him if you wish. Like it's not a no-go, but in that range, there's other guys that I prefer across different positions and even the same position as players who have similar usage, but just they're going to see more shot volume and probably have a similar assist rate, but more overall to go around and not have a James Harden on their team.
Sometimes amazing to see things that get said. The Rockets could get killed tonight.
Oh, they could. I doubt it.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume they. The more likely scenario is that they don't, considering that they're 2-point favorites tonight.
I was gonna say they're favorites. Yeah, if Paul George suits up, maybe.
If Paul George, here's my guess: if the line right now is Houston minus 2.5, which is what it is, I would guess that if Paul George gets ruled in, Houston is probably still the favorite.
Yeah, I think the expectation, like across the board, would be Paul George playing like not a huge role in the game just based on minutes.
Yeah. I gave him 26, so let's move to the Clippers. No Landry Shamet tonight, which is obviously not super relevant from his personal fantasy outlook. Yep. But it is 30 minutes that need to be filled by the Clippers in a way that basically just gets swallowed up by George. I gave him 26 minutes, and I'm not all that fond of anything on the Clippers today. Kawhi's 10-3 on FanDuel, 9,700 on DraftKings. I don't mind getting to him. I don't know that I'm going to have a ton. He doesn't grade out all that well for me. I think Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams are both appropriately priced. Pat Bev at 5K on FanDuel is probably the best value that I see across all of the sites. What do you want to do with the Clips?
Yeah, if Paul George is in, there's really no interest. But if he's out, JaMychal Green just filling in for those extra 30 minutes. A lot of them will get shoveled off to JaMychal Green. Mo Harkless probably gets some of them. And Green's just been way more productive. So far in DraftKings, 0.87 DK point per minute to Harkless's 0.65. Small sample, so should switch. But I think we expect that a little bit more from Green. So I would have interest in Green if Paul George sits at 4,300, but it's also not the craziest of values. He's not like 3,700 anymore.
Right.
But that's probably it. Like on DraftKings, $7,700 for Harrell is probably too steep, even with no George in there. Kawhi then obviously becomes a better play, but track him if he's even in. And then if he's out, cue the ESPN 3 days straight of just negative publicity. But yeah, there's not much here if George plays.
No, like how do you play 7,700 Montrezl Harrell with, Ben Simmons at 6,800?
Yeah, with Ben Simmons at 6,800 with like Siakam, affordably like $1,000 more with who's below him, like Thomas Bryant and Aldridge $1,000 less. It's really tough.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Montrezl Harrell, but that is just not an efficient way to spend your salary.
Yeah, that was the one that popped up the most. That was surprising to me.
I don't have anything else to touch on for Houston and the Clippers. It's Harden, it's Westbrook. Some of the value on Houston looks okay, but the Clippers are just really not where I'm looking to be.
Yeah, if Capella's low owned because of all the value, I'll happily get there. he's shooting just, I mean, lights out from the rim. It's the only spot the guy does shoot, so that should stabilize. And the rebounding rate right now, this is probably one of the more interesting things to track, is his rebounds are stabilizing while Westbrook's aren't over like the last 4 or 5 games. So we'll see if that swaps back the other way. But for right now, if Capella's like just unowned single digit ownership, I'll probably get to just more of that in a leverage play.
Okay. Keeping it moving. Minnesota we go. Timberwolves 115 implied total. Spurs 113. Big time pace up spot for San Antonio. Jeff Teague questionable. Shabazz Napier doubtful. I think that's everything for Minnesota. The most important piece of this here, 2 things. If Jeff Teague is in, he is 4,600 on DraftKings. That's a stupidly high value. And then Karl Anthony Towns, 10-9 on FanDuel, 9,300 on DraftKings, 17.6 on Fantasy Draft, $51 on Yahoo, and 1.62 FanDuel points per minute so far this season. You just play Karl Anthony Towns every night, especially at these prices.
Yeah, exactly. It's 1.63, same thing on DraftKings. And he played 30 minutes in the last game, but just skewed by second quarter foul trouble. He's going to play like 35 minutes, and he's $9,300. Even in this matchup, like I wouldn't be too scared of it. Like they're pricing him in to lose like 7 fantasy points here because of the matchup, and that's just not the case for a dominating center that the offense goes through him. And if Jeff Teague plays, it honestly just might help him, because when Andrew Wiggins is the guy to try and create for Karl Anthony Towns, it's nowhere near as great. Like the assist percentage will go up for Towns, which is good, but I think we're slowly starting to see, again, small sample, but somewhat of the downsides of Andrew Wiggins. It helps him having the ball in his hands more, but probably not the rest of his team.
Agreed. Yeah, Teague at 15% owned right now on DK. I'm really intrigued to see that, but at 4,600, he'll be one of the better plays of the day if we know he's in.
Yeah. And like the thing with Towns is, I think a lot of people, and he's like way too cheap on this slate, but like he shot 7 of 3 in their first game and he went off 13 of 18 the game after that. Like those were his huge monster games because of good shooting, but he's at 9,300, and in just a stable game where he plays his minutes, he's going to produce like a 55-point game, and it's really difficult to ignore that. So like don't expect his 80-point games to be shooting lights out, but there's still the ceiling of the 65, 70 there.
Yep. 100%. I can't believe Andrew Wiggins is 8,600 on FanDuel. Whew.
Yeah, he's almost touching 8K on DraftKings. He's been producing, but yeah, if T comes back at all, it's like the worst price player on the slate.
Yep. You should absolutely have 0 Andrew Wiggins if Jeff Teague plays in this game.
Yeah, and with the value that's on the slate, it's hard to want to prioritize Wiggins. Like he's shown that he can keep popping off, but it's hard to like trust that consistency. But yeah, I would have 0 if Teague is in.
Okay. Let's take a look at the San Antonio side. LaMarcus Aldridge, $200 more expensive than DeRozan on FanDuel, $400 cheaper than him on DraftKings, where Aldridge is just 6,600. I think the most interesting piece of all of this is that Aldridge is projected for 6% ownership on DK. It's been at just north of 1 fantasy point per minute so far this season. So I guess that ownership makes some sense, but it still feels really dirty that he's priced like he is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he's priced where he should be for this year, but like in past seasons we know what to expect. Now you have Murray just taking over with a ton of usage. That's the biggest drop that I'm seeing is just overall usage, but he's still shooting similar rates at the rim percentage wise, similar mid range. His mid range shot is still fine on limited shots, and yeah, he's averaging like around 1 fantasy point per minute. Assist rate is virtually the same as last year, so I think it's just less volume and overall usage because of Murray out there for spans with him. So yeah, 6,600 I think is probably appropriate for what he'll do, or at least this season for what he's done on average. But if it switches just a little bit in terms of volume and shot attempts, he's going to smash that. So I keep playing Aldridge, and like one time it's paid it off. But a lot of the times it won't just sink all your lineups. So he'll just get you there.
I hate the Spurs so much.
Yeah, like I don't know what to do with DeRozan.
No.
0-4 in the year from 3-point range. So, he's virtually Ben Simmons, right?
Yeah. 7,600 on FanDuel. I don't hate that price tag given the position, but
yeah. Yeah, once Murray plays 32 minutes, he'll be like a $9,500 player. And we could debate that until he gets there. But right now, it's just his 24 minutes are cannibalizing a lot. It makes Aldridge sustainable, but DeRozan, it really just spikes anything he can do. Like every game that you roster or watch DeRozan, you're just really hoping he pays off the salary at that point and doesn't do anything more than it.
Murray's tricky because I'm glad you brought him up. 24% expected ownership on FanDuel on a 7-game slate. That just feels too high for a guy that has a minute ceiling.
Yeah, it does. What is his ownership similar to that on? I'm pulling up now. 12% on DraftKings. I
Yeah.
refreshed this like right before we started. So yeah, that's where I'll take stabs on him
Right.
because like the minute ceiling is terrible. But DraftKings, if he stays 12 to 10%, there's pivot options to whoever might be chalk in that 6K price range. At that point, seeing if there's anybody right now in that range that is chalky. I mean, across different positions, there's a ton of power forwards. But yeah, right now it's tough. If he plays his 26 minutes tonight, then you just hope that it's the very effective game that he's been producing. But yeah, like you said, you don't want to play the inconsistent minutes guy when he's very popular because even if it goes well, you're not really exceeding all that much.
The pace up piece of San Antonio for today is interesting to me. The 113 implied total, I mean, that's a full 11 points north of Orlando. I think they got, like, I'm probably going to get a bunch of Derek White again. I mean, nothing too crazy, but I'll have my eye there. I would rather have Derek White than DeJounte Murray, just given White's ability to be on the floor longer.
Yeah.
And half the ownership.
But yeah, that's the thing. The straight leverage on it makes sense. And like direct leverage.
Yeah. Anything else that you like from the Spurs? They're not really... it's just like a bunch of guys that play 22 minutes.
Yeah, right now it's really just Aldridge. And if the ownership stays low, I imagine I'll be even more interested. And then shots on Murray if his ownership stays low. And that's it. The only other thing from Minnesota was Josh Okogie started the last game, was terrible, but you had Jake Layman playing 21 minutes straight at one point. So I don't think that keeps up for either of them. If Teague is out, it matters, but otherwise it doesn't.
I think we've got 2 to go then. The Los Angeles Lakers hosting the Golden State Warriors. Lakers 118 implied total. Warriors 106. Anthony Davis status TBD. I've got him in right now. If he's in and he's 9,400, I shouldn't have to tell anybody what to do. If he's out, I probably don't need to tell anybody else what to do. It's play LeBron James, play Kyle Kuzma. That's probably it. I mean, maybe you get more minutes for like Dwight or JaVale, but this is basically a 1.5 horse race. It's LeBron and Kuzma if AD is out. It's AD and LeBron if AD is in.
Yeah, exactly. Like LeBron's probably up there as like a top 2 play on the slate, if not the best play on the slate at 10-7. Like he should be priced like James Harden if AD was out, but they released this before AD got banged up last night. So it's like a 98-minute sample without Rondo because he's resting tonight, and AD on the court. LeBron 1.75 fantasy points per minute. Last year on back-to-backs, LeBron, before his injury on Christmas, he was playing about 32.5 minutes per game. But in the first month and a half in the season, he was playing 34 minutes a game on back-to-back. So I'm not too worried that he's going to be ultra restricted. He did play 37 minutes last night, but if you get 35 out of LeBron with no AD at 1.75, it's still probably the best play in the slate. So it's LeBron. Monitor Kuzma's status. He played 25 minutes last game. He's averaged that in the past 3. So that's a huge bump up for his rebounding rates. And the rest of the team, I think there's just value elsewhere.
Do you think that Kuzma gets a big time minutes bump if AD is out, or do you think they hold him around that like 26-minute number?
Yeah, if this wasn't a back-to-back, I would think he gets like 28. But with the back-to-back, I like even think there's a chance that you see what happened with Blake and they just let him sit out. It seems like, though, he's been playing more games than Blake. Blake came back for 1 game. So I think he stabilizes around I'll probably put him in for 26. But yeah, if this wasn't a back-to-back, I'd have him at, I think, 28.
Okay.
So there's upside there at the price point either way.
Are you trying to get to anybody else from the Lakers? Do you think Dwight or JaVale come into play? Any interest in the 13% owned flat minimum salary Alex Caruso?
Yeah, Caruso played like I think 25 minutes last night, but yeah, no real interest there right now. I'd rather take stabs on unless he's like super chalky, Ben McLemore from Houston. But yeah, I have Howard written up in notes as just somebody to look more into. 1.06 DraftKings point per minute this season, and you would expect him to at least see somewhat of a spike, maybe 24 minutes in this game, if not more. And there's definitely a ceiling there. So I'll look more into it. What is Howard's price right now?
He is 4,300 on DraftKings.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like that's nice. That's a nice price point on him. So I'll have to look more into him. Right now, I'll say that there's definitely interest there.
Lakers have been fantastic defensively, 8% better than average at limiting fantasy points on a per possession basis. Meanwhile, Golden State Warriors, slightly different. 7% increase to fantasy points on a per possession basis just by being on the floor with them. D'Angelo Russell is 9,200 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DK, 14.9 fantasy draft, and $37 on Yahoo. Mid-teens exposure. I like him a lot more than the public does, especially at 19% ownership. Right now, I have D'Angelo Russell as my 6th best play of the slate for DK on FanDuel, where he is the second most expensive shooting guard behind James Harden, where he is $3,000 behind him. He's my 3rd favorite shooting guard overall. I want to have a lot of D'Angelo Russell because why not? What's the downside here if he's on the floor?
Yeah, he's probably going to play like 34 minutes in this game, and he's averaging 1.35 fantasy points per minute, 35% usage rate, 35% assist rate. Right now, like LeBron probably becomes my favorite play if AD is ruled out, but then D'Angelo Russell is right there pushing it. I just like this guy a lot in this spot. I've been playing him nonstop, and he's averaging, since November started, so like a sample of like 5 games, 26 shots a game. Like that's just what D'Angelo Russell is going to do. And now there's also important probably to point out a little bit, no Damian Lee, so he's like one of their 3 shooters on the entire team outside of Alec Burks. So just probably more stability in the 25 shot attempt D'Angelo Russell tonight. And I think it makes Alec Burks a little bit more interesting just because no Damian Lee to chuck up like 12 shots in this game.
Oh God, how do we pick through the? Do you have Roto World pulled up, like the depth chart by any chance?
I have Roto World always up, but I'll go to the depth chart now.
It's oh God, like medical symbol, medical symbol, medical symbol, medical symbol. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8. They have 9 of them.
Yeah,
on players today. 9.
Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, I mean, you literally just have on this right now, Alec Burks is a shooter and D'Angelo Russell for the most part. That's it. Like Jordan Poole, I don't really think is classified as a shooter. I know he's a shooting guard, but not somebody that I'm worried about taking something away from D'Angelo Russell's upside. I think, yeah, Spellman's also kind of questionable. Doesn't really impact much there, but yeah, they're just banged up.
I think he's actually doubtful now, but
yeah, he is. You're right. Yeah, he got moved to doubtful.
Yeah, so we're gonna see some Marquise Chris minutes. I mean, what do you want to do? $5,600 Draymond. He has to be like interesting, right? If he's not chalky.
Yeah, definitely. Even if he is chalky, he has to be interesting at that price point just because what he can do, and no Anthony Davis would make it even better for him, just down low in terms of what he can do rebounding. So it's like a matter of if this guy's going to get there with assists or something, you're going to have a good shooting night from Russell, which he'll take enough shots to get there on some of those. But then there's nobody else to knock down shots outside of Burks. But yeah, he's 5,600. The question for me is he's the exact same price as Terry Rozier, and Rozier is getting all the ownership right now. So I know it's a different position, but if people are going to Rozier at that price point and it just makes Draymond like unnoticed, I think there's a very high percentage of the time that Draymond just outscores and shoots him out of the water from Rozier's standpoint. So yeah, there's not many people competing with Draymond down there for really all peripherals. For 5,600 is just a joke. He was 6,600, I think, on the last slate.
It's craziness. Absolute craziness. I love Russell. I love Draymond. Sign me up for some $5,500 Alec Burks. Sign me up for some $4,100 on FanDuel, Glenn Robinson. I'll probably have some Eric Pascal. I'll probably have some Jordan Poole. I don't want to do these things, but it's not like the Warriors only get to play 180 total minutes instead of the 240.
Yeah, I was about to say that somebody has to play these minutes. Do you have any interest in Cauley Stein at 4,900, played 26 in the last one?
I think there's interest, but it's really.
Yeah, it's like a question of his ceiling, right?
Like if you didn't look at anybody else's stuff today, I think that Willie Cauley-Stein would look like a good value for the game. There's just would you rather have Willie Cauley-Stein at 4,900 or Draymond Green at 56?
Yeah, Draymond there for sure.
Yeah. So, and that's just one of 40 other guys that are nice values. So I think he's perfectly reasonable, but just relative to everything else, it just ends up looking pretty gnarly. I'm just going to have a lot of Golden State. There's just too much value and too many minutes to go around.
Yeah, I like the game as a whole. I like that it's like just the last game. LeBron, I imagine's ownership will come up. Keep an eye on it. Like, I'm not shocked if Kuzma sits out this one. So I would keep an eye on all that. And then obviously Anthony Davis shakes up the entire slate.
Do you think Kuzma would sit if AD sits?
I think that is less likely, and I also think it's less likely compared to like the Blake situation, just because he's played 5 games so far this season. So the body and like his legs are actually under him a little bit. But yeah, I think there's still a chance that happens. just because of the fact, like we talked on earlier, like it could just be they're playing Golden State. Let these guys rest.
The simulation in YouTube chat. Draymond clamps LeBron. You think that Draymond is coming out here to play any legitimate defense in this one? Give me a break. No shot. That man is going to give very, very little fucks tonight.
Yeah, he's probably on 50% effort the whole time he plays this season.
I mean, he didn't give a shit in the regular season last year, and they
yeah,
were
he seems
good.
like the type of guy that just he seems like the type of guy that just doesn't like his teammates. Like none of these guys that are filling in here. Like nobody on this team. Did he play with anybody on this team from last year? Is there a single person on the team right now that was there last year in their rotation?
Russell wasn't. Burks wasn't. Pascal wasn't. Obviously, Willie Cauley-Stein wasn't. Glenn Robinson wasn't. Jordan Poole's a rookie, right?
Yeah.
Marquise Chris, no. Kai Bowman, no. So everybody that I projected for minutes have never been on the floor with Draymond Green before this week.
I just get the sense that he like hates all these guys.
I get the sense that he doesn't know them. Thank God these guys put their names on the back of their jerseys. Hey, you guy over here, you're the power forward today.
Yeah, I wonder what that guy is thinking when he shows up to the stadium.
I mean, for real, like how long do you think it takes to memorize people's names?
Oh, when it's like 9 like this?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in camp with them or most of them, probably like 2 weeks.
Right. He probably just calls Kai Bowman by his number.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, but 5,600 like him.
Antoine Murphy said Damian Lee. I don't think he's healthy for today, but yes, Damian Lee would have been the one that
that's the thing.
Overlap.
I mean, like obviously Curry and Looney, but Damian Lee out 2 weeks, I think, at least with a hand.
Right. I can't keep track of what is injured on these goons any longer. One last time, please hit that like button. We're happy to have you guys here. Please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well. Thank you very much to Yahoo. We've got one more game to go, so we can close this out. Portland Trail Blazers, Toronto Raptors. 112 implied total for the Blazers, 109 for the Raptors, or at least half of the Raptors. On the Blazers side, 10-2 for Lillard on FanDuel, 9,200 on DK. The guy that I'm looking at most, though, Hassan Whiteside, 8,500 on FanDuel, 6,400 on DraftKings, 12-3 on Fantasy Draft, $27 on Yahoo. Did you know that Hassan Whiteside is 2/100ths of a fantasy point per minute behind Damian Lillard this season?
No, I did not. I did not know these specifics. No, that's crazy.
1.33 for Damian Lillard, 1.31 for Hassan Whiteside so far this season.
Yeah, I was going to say Lillard's playing fine too, so it has to be just up there. Whiteside is the guy that I probably take the most just due to the pricing on Lillard and other guys around him. And look, he played 21 minutes last night. No worries on a back-to-back. He also played 34 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back earlier this season. So there's really no worries. And they don't have depth. Like Skull is not the guy you want to throw out there for 35 minutes. So he's going to play even on back-to-backs. And no, only 21 minutes last night is fine. So if he's in line for 26 minutes at 6,400, he's in the sea of the LaMarcus Aldridge, the Thomas Bryants, and he might actually jump to the top of that for me. But it's just him and then McCollum a little bit after that. McCollum's just shooting terrible this year, like 10% lower than last year. If he shoots half decent, it'll be a really good game at that price point.
Yeah, I'm going to have a ton of Whiteside, one of my top values across the board, especially on DraftKings at that price tag. DK, Fantasy Draft, Yahoo for $27. The FanDuel price is the worst price out of them, and I still kind of like him. I'm not terribly enamored with Damian Lillard. Not terribly enamored with CJ McCollum either, although I'll have a bit. If Rodney Hood is in, that really muddles the waters for the rest of Portland. Is there anything else that stands out here for you?
Yeah, no, I just wrote if Hood misses, Bazemore is sort of shaky value on this type of a slate. Like Dwight Howard at a similar price point, I'd rather get to if the positions work out for you. But yeah, trying to prioritize Lillard over Siakam, Russell, Cat, and then at the top end, Embiid and LeBron is just tough. Even Westbrook, just tough in that range. So it's Whiteside, and then McCollum's at a guy that I usually just get like 10% of like every night, and that's fine for me.
To Toronto we go, where I'm giving Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet 38 minutes apiece. That's probably too low, but if I don't do that, I don't know how much that I'm going to end up of these guys. I'm going to have a ton of Siakam, 9,700 and 8,700 on both sites, 7,500 for Van Vliet on FanDuel, 7,100 on DraftKings. We've got Rondé Hollis Jefferson looking to be the chalk play of the day. 66% projected ownership on FanDuel. He's at 24% on DK. Since OG Anunoby got poked in the eye and he will not be in. Chris Boucher up to 6,500 on FanDuel. They quickly changed that price. DraftKings, on the other hand, said, nah, we're good here at 4,300. So you need to smash him again. Norm Powell is going to have to play a ton of minutes with OG Anunoby out. What do we do with Toronto, man? They're playing too many minutes. This whole damn team looks fantastic.
Yeah, no, it really does. I think right now, so Siakam stands out, so does Van Vliet. Van Vliet is, if he's going to play that many minutes, even at 7,100, it looks weird, that price tag next to his name, but he's still fine in usage rate, 23%, assist percentages touching 30%. So he's okay at that price point. He's just a guy who's not going to be as good defensively as probably Lowry, but on offense, he'll pick up a lot of the same stuff in those 40 minutes of play. So he stands out. Siakam the most. I prefer RHJ and DraftKings, similar price point to Boucher. Bouchers seem to be playing just backup minutes for the most part to RHJ, who like a minute and a half into the game comes in for OG, and Hollis Jefferson ends up playing like the entire game, 0.95 fantasy points per minute. He's coming in right now lower owned slightly than Chris Boucher on DraftKings, but I think I prefer Hollis Jefferson there. But then there's even conversations around Powell, who should play like 36 minutes at a minimum in this game. He's too cheaply priced, so it's really hard to prioritize it. I think Siakam jumps to the top, and then it's sort of just a bunch of RHJ and Powell. And you could even go all the way down to Gasol, who's played 33 minutes in back-to-back games at 5,500.
Yeah, I think so. Hollis Jefferson is my favorite play on FanDuel at 4,200. Yeah. That is just really, really difficult to ignore given the way that positions are set up. He's a free square at power forward for all intents and purposes. Van Vliet is probably my second favorite option. Boucher on DK is probably third. I love Siakam. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to have a bunch of him, but just relative to salary, I think those guys come in a little bit further ahead. I have Siakam projected for 52 fantasy points on DK, so he's clearly a guy that I'm going to get a lot of. I don't really see a way to avoid the Raptors, and it's not as if this is a spot where anybody can be nervous about like blowouts, something that I don't pay attention to anyway, but it's a 3-point line in Portland. Like, they are still very much in this game.
Yeah, there's just minutes to go around in value, and I think like Siakam, I think it's a slate overall, like on a higher context outside of this game as a vacuum, that if anybody starts picking up a lot of ownership, like if it's Cat, you have just such easy and really viable pivots in guys like Siakam right there in similar price points, even Embiid, like whatever it might be. So wherever ownership comes in tonight, you don't have to feel too compelled to play that at the top end. But yeah, RHA stands out probably the most for me on DraftKings, and then Powell right there as the cheaper guys. I think I just don't get to Gasol because of all the other guys priced around him. But if he's going to play like 34, 32 minutes tonight at 5,500, I mean, more nights than not, when the entire rest of the team is not hurt, that just pops off. But he's like, what, the fourth best value on the team?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, yeah, I think so. I just realized I didn't even mention Marc Gasol. And,
yeah,
for the amount of minutes that he likely has to play, certainly in the cards. It's not as if you're worried about Hassan Whiteside's actual defense. He's a great DFS defender, but not necessarily like a great real life defender.
Yeah.
All right, so let's sum it up. Favorite plays for today. Who are the guys that you have your eye on most?
So I'll say this, assuming the unlikely to play AD is unlikely to play. It'll be LeBron, D'Angelo Russell, both from that same game stand out, and Karl Anthony Towns at the top end. And then, that's just the top end of it.
Okay. So for FanDuel, for me, my like tight player pool at the top: Russ for 9,900, Kemba at 9K, Fred VanVleet 7,500, D'Angelo Russell 9,200. Pascal Siakam at 97, Glenn Robinson 4,100. Power forward is real gross outside of Rondé Hollis Jefferson. So I would imagine that if everything holds, I will have 100% RHJ on FanDuel. That feels great. And then at center, Karl Anthony Towns. And I try to figure out what I'm going to do with Time Lord.
Yeah. I don't even know what to like recommend as top values because it's like the entire Toronto team.
Yeah. Everybody that plays on DraftKings today is the top value
Yeah,
on DraftKings.
exactly. Like the entire 6K range.
Except for Montrezl Harrell.
That's really it. That is really it. He's like the one guy out of the 7 or the 6K range that should have stayed there.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us. It's always great to have 755 people checking us out in the morning. Again, we have a ton of content coming up later today. Spags and Laffy will be on in 20 minutes talking about their first look at Week 11 NFL ownership. Deeper dive and live before lock will be up at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock again tonight. We've got Spags Four Corners video. It just never stops. Content. Check it all out. Please hit the like button. Let me know if AD is going to play. Let me know in the comment section. I'm feeling optimistic. I think he's going to end up being out there, but I don't want to spread misinformation as of right now. Sal, anything else? Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, no, nothing else on mine. You can find me on Twitter at Sal Vetri DFS. I have a YouTube channel, do some fantasy content. Just my name, Sal Vetri. And then I'll be on Thursday and Saturday at 11 a.m. talking NFL here at Allsmo.
Bam. Thank you guys for joining us. Good luck tonight. We will talk to you again later.